If you read the tutorial, you should know that there are a number of parts of speech. This just means they act in certain ways and we use them certain ways. Goes back to your fourth grade. Most of this should be review. However, let's go over it again, and as I go over them, I'll sort of explain why you need to know this as a copy editor, as a journalist, okay? One of the first ones that I have listed here is stop. If you looked at your tutorials, you would know that words like stop, halt, go, yells like that are called interjections. Okay? We don't use them very often in journalism. Try to save them for quotes or something like that. We don't use them that much. The next word after it is the. Okay? These should be very easy to remember. There's only 3 of them, the, a, and an. They're called articles. Some people don't even call them articles. They call them modifiers or adjectives, but this separates them out a bit too. What you need to know as a journalist on articles is that usually on the first reference of something, you might want to use the word a. For example, a report from the city council outlines the budget. Okay? Then on second reference, you can say the budget showed, etc., etc. Okay? Now here it's okay because we would probably, if this was the first reference, we would say something like the Maryville Police or something like that. So it's very specific and familiar, okay? But that kind of gives you an idea of when to use a and when to use the, okay? Now, this should be pretty simple. Police, people, places, and things, okay? This is people, places, and things. So this is a noun, okay? Now, action, things that are being done, okay? Yeah, you guys should know those. Those are called verbs, okay? Now, why is it important to know your nouns and your verbs, okay? They have to agree. If this is plural, that needs to be plural, etc. Okay? It will also come in handy when you're doing your AP style, because you'll notice on some of the AP style entries, it depends on how something is used in a sentence, whether it's a noun or a verb, and whether it's 1 word or 2 words or something like that. So just basically learn how to identify your nouns and your verbs. And honestly, if you could do nouns and you can do verbs, then everything else will fall into place fairly easily. Okay? Okay, so let's keep going. Our next sentence then, we have the again, so hopefully you recognize that again as an article. Okay, officers, people, places, or things. Okay, this is a noun. Okay, now quickly, I bet you most of you will remember this one because it ends in an ly, and that's like one of the first things you learned in grammar class, wasn't it? That adverbs end in ly. There's a few that don't, but yes, this is usually the case. But it's better to know that it's an adverb because it's describing the action. Okay, that's the best way to know that it's an adverb. Okay, because it's describing what the verb is doing. Okay, so quickly caught. There's the again. It's an article. I apologize for the glare on there. Working in a classroom the best I can here. Okay. Then we have a word here and we have a word here. Man, I think we would know. That's a part of speech that we're pretty familiar with, noun. Okay? What describes a noun? Think about it. An adjective. Okay? So adverbs describe verbs. Adjective describes nouns. Okay? So then we have our next sentence. Okay? Now here we have a word that you're probably all familiar with and everything. Okay? Hopefully you know what it is. It's called a pronoun. Pronouns take the place of regular nouns. Most of the time, we as journalists don't really even need to worry too much about them, except to know that if this is plural, the officers, then that needs to be plural. You might have a writer who gets confused, who's doing some editings and say the officers, and then the next line might say he. Okay? If it says he, and we don't know which officer we're talking about yet, that needs to be fixed. Okay? So, pronouns. Here's our action again, our verb. Now, here's another pronoun, okay? So now you're starting to see that there's lots, we've already learned most of our words already, okay? Now, here's a big word, and there's a word. What is test? Now, you can test someone, that's a verb, but nobody's testing anyone here. It's a thing, isn't it? They gave him a test, okay? So that's a noun. So what describes a noun? That's right, this is an adjective, okay? Now, we don't have just simple sentences all the time. Sometimes we'll have longer sentences, and when we do that, we need a word that brings the two sentences together. They gave him a breathalyzer test. They took him to jail. Something ties these 2 pieces together. Okay, the word and. That's called a conjunction. For right now, you don't have to know the different kinds of conjunctions or anything like that. Just know them. and, or, but. Those are the easy ones. But sometimes you might have ones like afterward they took him to jail, or where the trees were, they found the man. Those kinds of conjunctions as well. So you will learn more and more about those when we get to types of sentences, okay? Because those become really important then. But the rest of it you should know pretty well, okay? Here again, we have another pronoun. We have another verb. We have a pronoun, okay? Now we have one piece of parts of speech that we haven't covered yet, okay? This is probably the one that gives most people the most trouble, okay? It's called a preposition. And the best way to learn them is just to look them up and learn them. Just kind of sort of memorize them, okay? Somebody in one class one time used a tree, and they said the squirrel is next to the tree, on the tree, behind the tree, below the tree, on the tree. Those kinds of things. Those are prepositions. They show place and time, okay? You just got to learn them, okay? Just got to memorize them. And then we have a noun here as well, okay? So as you're working, sometimes it's not a bad idea to identify something around the word that you're having trouble with so that you can figure out what it is, okay? For example, if you have a verb, gave, you know that somebody has to be doing the giving, so there's probably going to be a noun or pronoun around there. Most of the time, I don't have problems with people on these. Most problems that people have are with the prepositions and the conjunctions, okay? Especially the odd conjunctions. So hopefully that will help you with your first worksheet.